projects on Special Provision 1, you have the menu.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the first column provides the classes of projects.
Yes, Your Honor.
Such as education, health, renovation of roads. Now, how about the second column?
It states the implementing agency, Your Honor.
Okay, and the third column states what?
The list of requirements, Your Honor.
Okay, can you go over Special Provision 2? What does it state?
Project identification, Your Honor.
Okay. What is the process?
Your Honor, the process is that the identification of projects and or designation of beneficiaries shall conform to the priority list, standard or design prepared by each implementing agency. That preference shall be given to projects located in the 4th to 6th class municipalities or indigents identified under the NHTS-PR by the DSWD. For this purpose, the implementing agency shall submit to Congress said priority list, standard or design within 90 days from effectivity of this act.
So under this provision, would you agree that when the implementing agency submits its priority list of projects to the legislators choose the specific project they want from the list?
Yes, Your Honor. They choose from a list.
So in the end, the individual legislators have the final say?
Yes, Your Honor. They make the choice.
Okay. Can you please go over Special Provision 3?
Special Provision 3, Your Honor, is legislators' allocation. The total amount of projects to be identified by legislators shall be as follows. For congressional districts or party list representatives, 30 million. For soft programs and projects listed under Item A, and 40 million for infrastructure projects listed under Item B, the purposes of which are in the project menu of Special Provision Number 1, and B, for senators, 100 million pesos for soft programs and projects listed under Item A, and 100 million pesos for infrastructure projects listed under Item B, the purposes of which are in the project menu of Special Provision Number 1, subject to the approved fiscal program for the year and applicable special provisions on the use and release of fund. Only 50% of the foregoing amounts may be released in the first semester, and the remaining 50% may be released in the second semester, Your Honor.
So here you have the limits of the allocation for each congressman and senator, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, under the first sentence of this provision, how is the term projects qualified?
Your Honor, it is qualified by the phrase, and I quote, to be identified by legislators shall be as follows, end quote.
Now, does this qualification reinforce your previous stand that the legislators have the final say in identifying the projects?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, please go over Special Provision 4. What does it say?
Your Honor, Special Provision Number 4 tackles realignment of funds. It says, realignment under this fund may only be allowed once. The Secretaries of Agriculture, Education, Energy, Interior and Local Government, Labor and Employment, Public Works and Highways, Social Welfare and Development, and Trade and Industry are also authorized to approve realignment from one project scope to another within the allotment received from this fund, subject to the following. 1. For infrastructure projects, realignment is within the same implementing unit and same project category as the original project. 2. Allotment released has not been obligated for the original project scope of work. And 3. The request is with the concurrence of the legislature concerned. The DBM must be informed in writing of any realignment within 5 calendar days from approval thereof, provided that any realignment under this fund shall be limited within the same classification of soft or hard projects listed under Special Provision 1 hereof, provided further that in cases of realignments, modifications, and revisions of projects to be implemented by LGUs, the LGUs concerned shall certify that the cash has not yet been disbursed and the funds have been deposited back to the BTR. Any realignment, modification, or revision of the project identification shall be submitted to the House Committee on Appropriations and the Senate Committee on Finance for favorable endorsement to the DBM or the implementing agency, as the case may be.
Now, do you agree that under Special Provision 4, no realignment, modification, and revision of the project identification can be made without the favorable endorsement of Congress?
Definitely, Your Honor. In fact, it is very explicit that the concurrence of the legislator concerned must be secured, even if it's a cabinet secretary.
Now, under the first paragraph of the same provision, if the realignment is requested by the department secretaries, you need the concurrence of the concerned legislator. Is that
Yes, Your
correct?
Honor.
Now, kindly go over Special Provision 5. What does it state?
Special Provision number 5 states, Your Honor, release of funds. All requests for release of funds shall be supported by the documents prescribed under Special Provision number 1 and favorably endorsed by the House Committee on Appropriations and the Senate Committee on Finance, as the case may be. Funds shall be released to the implementing agencies subject to the condition under Special Provision number 1 and the limits prescribed under Special Provision number 3.
Now, under Special Provision 5, can the funds be released without the endorsement of Congress?
No, Your Honor, because it relates to the previous Special Provisions 1 and 3.
So under all these provisions, do you think that the identification of the individual legislator is recommendatory or mandatory in nature?
Definitely not, Your Honor. And it is our position that
It is mandatory or recommendatory?
it's mandatory, Your Honor. The
It is
choice
mandatory.
binds. Yes, Your
Now,
Honor.
can you therefore say that the individual legislator is exercising a legislative function because the act of identification is part of appropriation?
We would, as an alternative argument, Your Honor, we would say that it is a legislative and he is acting on his own.
Okay, but can an individual legislator alone exercise legislative power, considering that the Constitution vests such power in Congress as a body?
No, Your Honor, especially since this is appropriation and under the Constitution, Article 626 commits the same power to Congress alone.
And therefore, would you consider the individual legislator's act of identification to be valid?
No, Your Honor.
Now, without the recommendation of the individual legislator, which you said is mandatory, do you think the law has sufficient standards for its implementation?
On its own, Your Honor, the menu provides a detailed standard of what the projects will be funded, Your Honor.
Is that sufficient standard?
Well, Your Honor, the problem here with the PDAF, Your Honor, is that it is left to the legislator himself to pick and choose. Precisely. So it actually divests the actual Appropriation Act to
Assuming
a single
there is no
legislator.
recommendation,
Assuming there is no... Yes, Your Honor, because
only
it's project...
the menu of projects and the allocation appear in the appropriation law. Would there be sufficient standards for implementation?
I would argue, Your Honor, no, because we are giving them a lump sum item and then it's up to them, Your Honor, to pick and choose again.
Now, do you have the 2012 GAA?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, can you see provisions similar to Special Provisions 1 to 5 of the 2013 GAA?
I have a menu, Your Honor.